Judge Dorow, they tell me we're ready.
All right, excellent.
Great to see you. Thanks for making time. I know there's limits to what we can talk about here, right? So we'll do our best to try to navigate through this. But this was such an important trial and moment for this community. What can you tell us about the experience for you and how you managed through this?
Well, I can't talk about the specifics of the case. I have some ethical considerations to be mindful of. What I can say is I was really honored that this case was assigned to me and given really the privilege of navigating through it from the beginning, not really knowing where it would all go. Certainly the amount of time that I spent on the case was longer than any case I had personally been involved with, whether as an attorney or as a judge, to set aside an entire month of my calendar. But a lot of long days, a lot of support from my colleagues was truly, truly amazing. And we often say, you know, when you have a case like that, you don't go through it alone. And my colleagues were tremendous in their support and helping me out in a variety of different ways.
So talk about that, because you're the chief judge in Waukesha County, but there's a team. You have a team, and there was a lot of people involved. How did the team do? How did you manage the team?
Sure. So could not do something like this, really any trial, without the team with the clerk of courts, our district court administrator, my in-court and out-of-court team, so my deputy clerk and legal clerk, my court reporter, of course, and so many logistics. And there's a lot of planning, a lot of team building. Of course, needed the sheriff's department involved because they're in charge of courtroom security. And then, of course, the jail for any time there's an in custody defendant, they have to be involved as well. So a lot of communication. I really take my hats off to our clerk of court, Monica Paz, and our district court administrator, Mike Nyman, for really taking the brunt of all of that and keeping things organized so that I could focus on the task at hand.
So how did you stay focused? You knew this was a big community event, but it was also attracting national attention, also had some political narratives attached to it as well. So how did you manage all the attention and the distractions?
Honestly, I just did my job every single day like I would for any case, and that's being prepared. For the start of jury selection, for example, I take a large role in that, which is different than some judges, and how I conduct jury selection for all of my cases. And I'll even go back before my day even starts. I am a strong woman of faith, and without that, I think it would be hard pressed to get through something with such stress and pressure and the weight of everything. And that's day in and day out for any judge. So I start my day every day reading my Bible and in prayer to kind of put myself in the right attitude and mindset. I truly, truly believe that what I do is not a career, it's a calling, and that I serve the people of the state of Wisconsin and the citizens of Waukesha County. And that's my focus. That's what keeps me going. And I'm that guardian of the rights for not just victims, but defendants. And I take that role really, really seriously. And that's how I went about each and every day, and a lot of preparation. I have a wonderful law clerk. I mean, there are certain issues you can predict may come up. And so we were prepared with all of those. And then if issues would come up, I, of course, would have him work on things. And then I would take those and run with it and make the decisions that I needed to make.
So how did you provide that balance? So you knew the impact that this tragedy had in the community, but you also knew what your role was going to have to be as a judge. How did you find that balance?
Following the law is a great thing to do, right? And I would do that in any case, not just this case, and really focus on what does the law say and how do I apply that to this particular case or any case that comes before me.
Tell me what it's like to be Judge Dorow. Everybody knows what you're doing in the courtroom, but you have to leave the courtroom to come home, go places. So how did you manage that? In essence, are you like a juror? You really can't talk to anybody, right?
Well, I can talk to my colleagues, right? Yeah. That is one thing that even the rules of ethics support. And so I'd rely a lot on my colleagues to decompress, to bounce ideas or decisions that I would have to make, and say, what do you think about this, and or what do you think about that? They were incredible to do that with. And then of course just coming home and really unwinding. I think we all have our favorite TV shows that we like to watch, and I still was mom. I have 3 children, 2 of which are really out of the house, either in school or working, and then my younger one is 12, and she's a very competitive athlete. So there were nights I was driving to Illinois with her because that's where she trains. And
Wow.
but that was kind of a nice time for me to share with her as well. And there were other times when I rely on her teammates. We have some teammates from up here as well to help out with the rides. And of course, my husband was amazing and support. I joke around that for at least the first 2 weeks, I needed protein in the middle of the week. And I said, we have a great restaurant down the street. And I got a steak, brought it home, and it kind of fed me for a couple of days. And just tried to relax each night, get a good night's sleep, and then start each day as I would any other day, just to keep focused.
Were you surprised by all the letters that came in for you?
Absolutely. I should tell you, I haven't even read them. So
Why
they
not?
started coming in, and I can't consider ex parte communication. And so they started coming in, and at first you're like, oh, 1 or 2, right? I put them aside, and then things really started coming in. And so after I consulted with our ethics folks in Madison, I decided that everything would go to the clerk of courts. She would scan everything in, so whether letters, cards, or if like flowers or edibles came, we'd keep a record of that. I did receive some emails directly. It's not hard to figure out court officials' email. They're out there on the internet. And so I just would forward everything printed off, and honestly, I really haven't had a chance to look through them. I mean, it was overwhelming,
Is it something that you hope to go back and look at them and respond to them?
I won't respond to them because I still have a pending case, and but now that sentencing is over, and at some point I'll make a decision when it's appropriate to review them, and I'd certainly like to do that. From what I understand, at least from some of the news reports, I mean, I think they overwhelmingly were positive, a couple of criticisms, but that goes with the territory.
So were you surprised at all the attention on you? I mean, I think even someone dressed up as you for Halloween.
That was amazing because, as I understand it, people were inspired as a woman. And then young girls were inspired. I've had people come up to me, and people that I know say, my daughter's rethinking what she wants to do for a career because of what she saw you do and how you handled yourself. So that was really heartwarming, overwhelming.
So how does that make you feel as a mother and as a judge, that young girls are looking at you and saying, maybe that's what I can do in life?
One of my crowning achievements is being a working mom. I might get a little emotional when I talk about that, because not everyone is told, right, that they can have it all. It's a lot of work, there's a lot of sacrifice, but to teach my children, whether my sons or my daughters, that you can work hard, you can be a public servant, you can have a career and still have your family, and encourage them, and hopefully inspire them. That to me was so overwhelming, and it just amazes me that people look to me that way for doing what I love to do, and that's my job.
Were there role models for you? I mean, we had talked earlier, but your career, you decided to go into law after thinking about journalism.
Yes.
But were there role models for you?
Well, I go back to law school and had some professors that really made an impact on me. One professor, I was able to work as his research assistant, and he had been the Attorney General of Guam. He had been the prosecutor on a case, Illinois versus Gates, and so we had kind of a bird's eye view, and it was a search warrant case, so had a bird's eye view into that, and just really fell in love with criminal law. Did an internship while I was in law school for a prosecutor's office in Virginia Beach. There was one woman there who, was fun to watch her. I had some classmates who were a little bit older as well. who law was a second career to them. And just as things unfolded, I really fell in love with criminal law. Wanted to come back home and be a prosecutor. And of course, kind of in the back of my mind, always thinking about the role of a judge and what that means. And I think in Wisconsin, we have two incredible, actually three, probably more, but 2 to 3 that really, really have made a difference to me. And that's Justice Rogensack, Justice Ziegler, who's our Chief Justice, and Judge Diane Sykes, who's now with the 7th Circuit. I mean, all strong women, all women who have raised families while doing their jobs and doing them well. So I've had some great role models here in Wisconsin.
Well, you talked about some high-profile role models as well. And some people are wondering, what's next for Judge Dorow? Are you interested in running for the Wisconsin Supreme Court?
What I can tell you is I've been overwhelmed with the outpouring of support and encouragement to consider a run for the Supreme Court. I like to consider all my options, right? I want to weigh things and certainly talk to my family and make a decision over the next couple of days, whether that's something that
it's a lot to think about.
Right. It's whether it's something I'm interested in, whether it's something that I think is important to do. Of course, it's important. Again, just overwhelmed by the show of support and encouragement to consider doing that. I love being a public servant, and that's where my heart is in terms of career, is that whatever I do, I want to continue serving the people in Wisconsin and Waukesha County.